Shalom. Good Shabbos, good evening. Welcome to Congregation Dor Tamid in our Friday evening Kabbalat Shabbat Chol HaMoed Sukkot worship service. It is great to see all of you here who are joining us in the sanctuary, as well as all of you who are joining us on Zoom, on Facebook, through our YouTube stream, and on our website. We are so glad all of you are joining us tonight to celebrate this Shabbat for whatever reason, whatever method you are joining us. We are so glad to be here tonight because it is Shabbat, and it is the Shabbat of Zman Simchatenu, the Shabbat of this holiday that we call the time of our rejoicing. We come together tonight for many reasons as we celebrate this Shabbat where some of us are saying prayers for those who are in need of healing. The Shabbat where some of us are remembering a loved one. The Shabbat where we celebrate a simcha of a young person in our community, Simon Thompson, who tomorrow will celebrate becoming a bar mitzvah during our morning worship service. And this Shabbat, that is Shabbat. It is the day where we have the opportunity to take a step back and renew ourselves, reflect on the week that was past, and enter into this day that we are given as a gift from our Creator, a gift of time. And as we begin our service this evening, I'm going to ask everyone in the sanctuary to just take a moment and make sure all of your electronic devices are turned off. Make sure your masks are on properly as we turn to page 128 and sing the words that say how beautiful it is that all of us are here together.
Hine mato manai sheverachim gam yachad. 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 Hine mato manai sheverachim gam yachad.
As we do each week, we enter into Shabbat by bringing more light into creation. And to do so, I'm going to invite Simon and his family to come forward to kindle our Sabbath lights as we turn to page 120.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
We turn now to page 125. Where has this week vanished? Is it lost forever? Will I ever recover anything from it? The joy of life, the unexpected victory, the realized hope, the task accomplished. Will I ever be able to banish the memory of pain, the sting of defeat, the heaviness of boredom? On this day, let me keep for a while what must drift away. On this day, let me be free of the burdens that must return. On this day, Shabbat, abide. Help me to withdraw for a while from the flight of time, contain the retreat of the hours and days from the grasp of frantic life. Let me learn to pause, if only for this day. Let me find peace on this day. Let me enter into a quiet world this day. On this day, Shabbat, abide.
Amen.
We turn to page 131 as we sing this song to God.
Shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz. Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash. Shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz. Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash. Sing unto God all the earth a new song. I will sing unto God a new song. Sing unto God and we'll all sing along. All the earth a new song unto God. Shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz. Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash. Shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz. Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash.
Page 136. Mizmor leDavid. Havu l'Adonai b'nei Elim. Havu l'Adonai kavod va'oz. Havu l'Adonai kavod shemo ishtachavu l'Adonai b'hadrat kodesh. A psalm of David. Ascribe to Adonai, O divine beings. Ascribe to Adonai glory and strength. Ascribe to Adonai the glory of God's name. Bow down to Adonai, majestic in holiness. The voice of Adonai is over the waters. The voice of the God of glory thunders. Adonai over the mighty waters. The voice of Adonai is power. The voice of Adonai is majesty. The voice of Adonai breaks cedars. Adonai shatters the cedars of Lebanon. God makes Lebanon skip like a calf, Syrian like a young wild ox. Together, the voice of Adonai kindles flames of fire. The voice of Adonai convulses the wilderness. Adonai convulses the wilderness of Kadesh. The voice of Adonai causes hinds to calf and strips forests bare, while in God's temple all say glory. Adonai sat enthroned at the flood. Adonai sits enthroned, sovereign forever. May Adonai grant strength to God's people. May Adonai bestow on God's people well-being. We turn now to page 138 as we prepare to welcome the Sabbath bride with the singing of the Chadodi. We will sing together tonight verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. And for the ninth and final verse, we rise and face the door of the sanctuary, hoping to catch a glimpse of the Sabbath bride as she enters our presence.
Yalalalai lechadodi, yalalalai lekrakala, yalalalai b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor בדיבור אחד השמיענו אל המיוחד אדוני אחד ושמו אחד לשם ותפארת בלי תילה יאללה לי לך דודי יאללה לי לך כלה יאללה לי לך שבת בני שבת נקבלה לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה כי היא מקור הברכה מראש מקדת נסוכה סוף מעשה במחשבה תהילה יאללה לי לך דודי יאללה לי לך כלה יאללה לי בני שבת נקבלה התעוררי קיבה אורי שיר דברי כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה יאללה לי לך דודי יאללה לי לך כלה יאללה לי בני שבת נקבלה בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה גם בשמחה וצוהלה תוך אמוני עם סגולה בואי כלה יאללה לי לך דודי יאללה לי לך כלה יאללה לי בני שבת נקבלה.
We turn now to page 144 as we prepare to transition into the Shema and its blessings with the words of the Chatzi Kaddish. And to lead us in this prayer, I invite forward Simon Thompson, our bar mitzvah. Amen.
Vilma divra hurte yamlich molchute
Bechayechon uv'yomechon u'chayedechol Beit Yisrael. Bagala u'bisman kariv.
Limuru
Amen. Yeheshmei Rabba Mevorach Le'olam Le'omaya Yitbarach
v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitoleh v'yithalal Shmei Kudisha
Birechu
Le'ela mikol birchata v'shirata
Tushbechata V'nechemata Damiran De'alma V'yimeru.
Amen. Yalla lai lai lai, 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 yalla lai lai lai. Baruch Adonai. Yalla lai lai lai, 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 yalla lai lai lai. Am I awake? Am I prepared?
Please be seated. Page 149. This is an hour of change. Within it we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim.
Ahavat olam, Beit Yisrael, Amecha ahata, Amcha ahata. Torah u'mitzvot, Ukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadeta, Otanu limadeta. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shokbenu, Umenu na'asiach b'chukecha, V'nismach b'divrei Toratcha, U'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed. Yihim chayenu, Be'orech yameinu, Uvahem nege yomam v'layla, Nege yomam v'layla. Yahavatcha tasih, Mimenu le'olamim, Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev amo Yisrael. Ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'chol nafshecha u'b'chol meodecha ve'hayu advarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam B'shitecha, b'veitecha, uv'lechtecha, v'aderech, uv'shochbecha, uv'kumecha, u'kshartam leot al yadecha, v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha, u'ktavtam al mezuzot beitecha, uv'isharecha, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. Ani Adonai Elohechem. Adonai Elohechem emet.
We turn to page 157 as we read responsively. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. From bondage in Egypt, we were delivered. At Sinai, we bound ourselves to your way. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed.
Yai lai 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 lai.
Ya la la
Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai. Mi chamocha neder b'kodesh. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai. Mi chamocha neder b'kodesh. Nora tehilot osei feleh. Nora tehilot osei feleh. Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Baruch Ata Adonai Ga'al Yisrael.
Page 161, we read together at the bottom of the page. Give us a place to rest, Adonai our God. Bring us into shelter in the soft, long evening shadows of your truth. For with you are true protection and safety, and in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch Ata Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, v'al kol amo Yisrael v'al Yerushalayim.
Veshamru v'nei Yisrael et hashabat la'asot et hashabat ledorotam berit olam. Veshamru v'nei Yisrael et hashabat la'asot et hashabat ledorotam berit olam. Meini uvein b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam. Oti le'olam v'shamru b'nei Yisrael et hashabat la'asot et hashabat ledorotam berit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz v'shamru b'nei Yisrael et hashabat La'asot et hashabat ledorotam berit olam. Uvayom hashvi'i shavat vayinafash, shavat vayinafash, shavat vayinafash. Veshamru b'nei Yisrael et hashabat. La'asot et hashabat ledorotam berit olam.
We turn now to page 164 for the tefillah, our central prayer section of our service. Tonight we will read the opening psalm or sing the opening psalm together, followed by the first three blessings in this section. And then I invite you to continue the section silently, using either the words on the page or the words you hold in your hearts and minds. When you have finished, please be seated, and we will continue with a prayer of peace. Just one thing to note before we begin, though, that if you are using the words on the page, there are additional readings, additional liturgical sections for this holiday of Sukkot. So please keep that in mind as we now rise for the tefillah.
Yalla lai lai lai, yalla lai lai lai, yalla lai lai lai, yalla lai lai lai. Adonai sefatai titach, ufi agidi latecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Yalla lai lai lai, yalla lai lai lai, yalla lai lai lai, yalla lai lai lai. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, ve'Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim ve'Konei Hakol, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיה הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך הסלע. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש. יהיו לרצון אמרי פי, והגיון ליבי לפניך. אדוני צורי, אדוני Tsuri Begoali Yehu Leratzon Imrefi Vehegyo Nibi Lifanecha Adonai Tsuri Adonai Tsuri Vigoali.
For all of our holidays, there is a either liturgical or biblical reading that is associated with the holy day. For the ones we just went through, for Rosh Hashanah, biblically it's the Akedah, the binding of Isaac. For Yom Kippur, it's Isaiah's questioning, is this the fast I seek? For both the holidays, it is Kol Nidre and Avinu Malkeinu that draws us to those holy moments. For Hanukkah, it's the words of Zechariah that say, if not by might, if not by power, but by my spirit, says God. And for Purim, it's the Megillah, or more specifically, Megillat Esther, the story of Esther and Mordechai and the wicked Haman. Sukkot, on the other hand, has a reading, but it doesn't always jump to the forefront of our minds. In Sukkot, we think about being outside in the sukkah. We think about the lulav and the etrog. We think about being in nature, or as many have called it, the Jewish Thanksgiving. But there is a biblical reading that is assigned to these days of Sukkot that is traditionally read or studied on this Shabbat, Shabbat Chol HaMoed Sukkot, the Shabbat in between the days of Sukkot, and it is the book of Kohelet, the book of Ecclesiastes. And this book is, let's say, very famous in our society. And we can thank the birds for that. To everything, turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. A song made famous that takes its message from chapter 3 of the book of Kohelet, of the book of Ecclesiastes, with the final words saying, a time for peace, I swear it's not too late, a adjustment, shall we say, of the biblical text, which has throughout the verses one couplet after another of opposites. It's a time for this and a time for that, a time to be born and a time to die. And the final line is not just this call for peace made famous as a, let's say, anti-Vietnam song, but it's a time of peace and a time of war. And when you look at chapter 3 of the book of Kohelet, amongst the entire book itself, the meaning and the feel of it is very different than how it's portrayed when sung by the birds, or as we will sing it to conclude our service this evening. The book of Kohelet can be summed up by words that are in its opening verses. The Hebrew is chaval, and said just like that, chaval, woe. Woe is us. It's futile. There is no point. That's the message of the book of Kohelet. Kohelet, who says to us, Ein chadash tachat hashamesh. There's nothing new under the sun. It's a book that is surprising to be found in our Bible. It's a book that takes out the optimism, really takes out the pessimism too. It just says it's all just for nothing. The sun keeps rising, the sun keeps setting. What we do doesn't matter. So the question is, why is this book that poses this futile view of the world, A, in our Bible, and B, read on this holiday? Why is it read on Sukkot, the holiday that our rabbis say is Zman Simchatenu, the time of our rejoicing? If it's all futile, why do we rejoice? And I think that Kohelet does indeed bring us some important lessons. To put the message of Kohelet in our modern parlance, don't sweat the small stuff because it's all small stuff. Kohelet's message is not that our lives don't matter. It's not that our interactions don't matter. It's not that our relationships matter, but it's that each individual small interaction or moment is not the end all be all of our existence. Kohelet tells us that there is a time for everything, a time for the good and a time for the bad, a time for the highs and a time for the lows. And so on this holiday of Sukkot, on Zman Simchatenu, this time of our rejoicing, we read these words to remind us that yes, there is that time for our rejoicing, but we have to temper it with knowing that there's time when it's not appropriate. And we read these words while sitting in or around our Sukkot, the temporary structures that many of us have in our homes, that our synagogue has outside, that is meant to only be up for a short time, that our halakha says needs to have at least 3 walls and no full roof. For it's not a kosher sukkah if you can't see the sky. So as we read these verses that say everything is futile, that it doesn't matter, that we shouldn't focus on the tiny, insignificant details, the sukkah reminds us also at the same time to look up, to see what is bigger than ourselves, to see the sun, the moon, the stars, the world around us. So Kohelet tells us, don't waste your time on the things that don't matter, at the same time that the sukkah tells us the world is bigger than ourselves. Those two messages go hand in hand to remind us, yes, there is a time for this and a time for that. To remind us to focus on that which is important, that which will bring healing, that which will bring hope and peace and wholeness to the world. So don't sweat the small stuff. Focus on that which really matters, that which brings more peace, more shalom, and more godliness into creation. Amen. We are going to fulfill the mitzvah of Sukkot. I will, at this time, shake the lulav and etrog and say the bracha on behalf of the congregation. And we will have the lulav and etrog outside at our Oneg Shabbat after the service, so that if any of you who are here with us in person want to shake the lulav and etrog this evening, you will have an opportunity. We rise. We say, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al netilat lulav. Please be seated. We pause now in our service as we think of those members of our community who are ill. Some are at home recovering, some are in the hospital. Some have diseases and illnesses from which they may never recover. As we think of all of them, we ask for God's healing presence to be with each one of them on this Shabbat and always. Tonight, we think especially of Richard Zuspin, Lee Silverstein, Jill Vantine, Eleanor Goodman, Charles Goodman, Yuli Makovich, Libby Routman, Laurel Phoenix, Marjorie Whitmore, Jerry Phillips, Claire Levin, Paul Kershon, Reva Fisher, Chandler Jacobs, Aaron Withers, Brianna Jacobs, Leslie Knight, Bert Singerman, Stephen Schiff, Mateo Velasquez, Dr. David Maisel, Janelle Siegel, Rachel Davis, Max Jacobs, Charlie Kaplan, Kathy Waldner, Susan Abrams, Jerry Jacobs, Christopher Denton, Barney Greenberg, Lynn Greenberg, Jerry Gimple, and Phyllis Lapin. If you are thinking of someone who is in need of a prayer of healing, I invite you to share their name with the community as my eyes meet yours, or if you are joining us virtually, to add their name to the chat at this time. We think of all of them and ask for God's healing presence to be with them as we turn to page 371 for this blessing.
Mi sheberach avotenu mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing. And let us say, Amen. Mi sheberach imotenu mekor habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit. And let us say, Amen.
We turn now to page 586 as we rise for Aling.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, latet gdula liyotzeh bereshit, shehu noteh shamayim v'yosed haaretz, umoshav yikaro b'shamayim mima'al, ushchinatu zo b'govei meromim, hu Eloheinu Enon. Vanachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim, lifnei melech malchei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, v'ne'emar v'haya Adonai, l'melech al kol haaretz, bayom hahu, yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo echad.
Please be seated. Why should I wish to see God better than this day? I see something of God in each hour of the 24 and each moment then. In the faces of men and women, I see God, and in my own face in the glass. I find letters from God dropped in the street, and every one is signed by God's name. And I leave them where they are, for I know that wheresoever I go, others will punctually come forever and ever. Our thoughts now turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. At this sacred moment of our Shabbat evening worship, we think longingly and lovingly of those taken from us both recently and at this season in years past. We are in a period of Shloshim, the first month after their passing of Sharon Arnett, and we mark the yard sites, the anniversary of their passing on this Shabbat, of Margaret McDaniel, Margie Astron, Max D. Harvey, Isidore Mizrahi, Edna Strauss Mandel, Miriam Clafter, Albert Bassell, and Barry Shapiro. And we also remember as a community Barbara Kirshner, who passed this morning. If you are remembering someone on this Shabbat, I invite you to share their name with our community as my eyes meet yours. Zichronam livracha. May all of their memories always be a blessing. And may we link their memories to the memories of the millions of our people who have no one to say Kaddish for them. The many thousands and thousands who have died as a result of the pandemic. The Shemei Rabbah, the great, holy, and awesome name of God that we praise now with the words of the mourner's Kaddish on page 598. If you are able, please rise. Yitkadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah, v'alma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, Bagalav Izman Kariv Imru Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah Mevorach Leolam Alamei Almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shmei Kudsha Brechu. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbachata v'nechemata. Damiran b'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabbah min Shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn, and comfort to all the bereaved here and everywhere with the blessing of peace. Together, wherever we are, we say, amen.
Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru. Amen.
For our closing song, we turn to page 664 for these words inspired by the book of Ecclesiastes.
To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, 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 and a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to reap, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to laugh, a time to weep, a time to build up, a time to break down, a time to dance, a time to mourn, a time to cast away stones, a time to gather stones together. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, 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 and a time to every purpose under heaven. A time of love, a time of hate, a time of war, a time of peace, a time you may embrace, a time to refrain from embracing, a time to gain, a time to lose, a time to rend, a time to sow, a time of love, a time of hate, a time for peace. Swear it's not too late. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, 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 and a time to every purpose under heaven.
Please be seated. Shabbos, everyone.
Good Shabbos.
It's wonderful being able to be here with you either in person or virtually. Before we conclude our service, just a few brief announcements. Tomorrow morning, we will continue celebrating Shabbat with our Shabbat morning worship service at 10:30 a.m. here in the sanctuary, as well as on Facebook and our website and Zoom, where we will also celebrate the bar mitzvah of Simon Thompson. And we are looking forward to celebrating Simon with you and your family tomorrow morning. On Sunday morning, we have religious school at its normal time, and Play Tamid, our parent or grandparent and toddler group, meets at 9:30 a.m. outside in the tent on this Sunday morning. Excuse me, Monday, we have Hebrew with Molly in the morning at 10 a.m. and then at 5:45 p.m. is our consecration dinner for our pre-K and kindergarten families, followed by Simchat Torah services. Our Simchat Torah services are always a good time. It's a great service. It's a fun service. We have gotten permission. We will be dancing this year with the Torah, and we will be unrolling the scroll. If you've never seen the scroll unrolled around our sanctuary, you have to come to Simchat Torah. It is a sight not to be missed and an experience that everyone needs to have at least once, but really year after year. And being that we haven't done it in 2 years, you got to come this time. So we're looking forward to seeing everyone Monday evening for Erev Simchat Torah consecration services. On Tuesday morning at 10 a.m., we will meet here in the sanctuary for Simchat Torah Shmini Atzeret morning festival services, as well as our Yizkor service. It's traditional to have Yizkor, the memorial service that most of us associate with Yom Kippur afternoon, also on the festivals, on Sukkot, on Pesach, and on Shavuot. So we will meet on Tuesday morning here at 10 a.m. That service will be in person and on Zoom only. So not on Facebook, not on our website, but Zoom and in person. It's a much more intimate, private service with the opportunity to share memories. So we are only going through Zoom for that service. Wednesday, our Torah study meets at 11 a.m. here in the social hall. And at 1 p.m., our knitting and crochet group on Thursday will meet. And on Thursday evening, our men's club is going to the Gwinnett Stripers, the Gwinnett Stripers minor league baseball game. Friday next week, we are into October, which means it is birthday Shabbat. And then next Saturday morning, we will celebrate the bat mitzvah of Audrey Bronfman. And then next Saturday evening, we will have our sisterhood and men's club grill and chill out on the patio. There is still time to RSVP. Our sisterhood president is sitting right over there, so she's confirming there is time to RSVP. If you haven't yet, it's going to be a really fun night. Come and join us out on the patio for a lot of fun and some good food. And then going forward to Monday, October 4th, our sisterhood book club will have its next meeting. Special thank you this week to Dan Rosen, who this past week came out and helped put up the sukkah in, I think, record time. We got it up in about 28 minutes. So thank you, Dan, for your help. As I mentioned, next week is birthday Shabbat, but this week is anniversary Shabbat. Is there anybody here celebrating an anniversary in September? We'll let you stand up. So you're going to have to speak really loud to make sure everybody can hear you in the virtual universe as well as in person. But as I come back, why don't you introduce yourselves and tell us how many years? Mazel tov.
Mazel tov. Semen tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, semen tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, semen tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, semen tov. Yehelanu.
Mazel tov to Ron and Bonnie on 36.
36.
Double
Chai. You should have given him double chocolate.
I did actually.
Oh, there you go.
So double Chai. It's a simcha in itself to reach such a great Jewish number of years. We are about to conclude our service this evening with Kiddush and Motzi and a closing benediction. So I'm going to ask everyone to turn in your prayer books to page 123. And Simon, I'm going to ask you to come forward to help lead us in Kiddush as we all rise.
Simon. Simon. Simon, you just hold the Kiddush cup, okay? Uncover it. Uncover it. You uncover it. Uncover it. Take the metal off. There you go. Okay, hold it up high. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshana b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu b'shabbat kodsho be'ava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila l'mikra'ei kodesh zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim Kivanu v'acharta v'yotanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha b'yava uvratzon hinchalatanu Baruch atah Adonai mikadesh haShabbat.
Chaim.
L'chaim. You can take off your mask and have a sip. Great vintage.
And then Simon, if you'll uncover the challah as we sing together.
Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together. As our joyful prayer is said, you can rip it open. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. B'tei avon. I'll take off a piece, Simon.
And Simon has the first piece on behalf of all of us. We ask for God's blessing. Adonai ozle amo yitain, Adonai yivarach et amo v'et kol b'nei adam b'shalom. May God give strength to God's people. May God bless each one of us, all of Israel and all of creation with the blessing of peace. Together we all say, Amen. Shabbat shalom and Chag Sameach.